Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session on looking at Google Workspace and the Google tools that we've got available to us. Some of you are here looking at it from a personal perspective of how to use some of the Google tools, which I think is brilliant because this will give you some education on generally how you can use the tools, not just within InnerWheel, but also within your personal use. And we're also then going to cover how they can be used within the club use for moving forward. So the majority of this session, I'm going to be skipping between sharing screen and coming back to ask questions and get some feedback. Make sure as well that, as I just said to the people online, write your questions into the chat box or keep record of them, and at the end we'll try and cover as many questions as possible. So this is really a time for you to ask. So I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to go into, I was going to set up a completely separate, of course someone's gone and emailed me, so I'll just exit there. I was going to set up a completely separate account to show you how to use it, but actually I'm using the President's account and there's a lot of emails in here, but this is the account I use on a day-to-day basis. So I just thought that it's going to be so much easier if I use what I am used to using. So the first thing when you go into your Gmail account or into your Google account, I tend to always go straight to Gmail, but you'll notice that, I'll just move you all over here. When you click on the little 9 dots, it brings up all your workspace apps that you can use. Now, I don't use hardly any of these. I am, in my day-to-day basis, I am usually a Microsoft person, so I use Word and Outlook and everything. So I have my Gmail emails that also get sent into my Outlook, and I use that on a day-to-day. But I do use, for my InnerWheel work, I'm starting to use more of the Google tools, because if I'm trying to get you all on board with it, then we need to be on board and work out what we're doing with them as well. And I've discovered that they're actually quite useful tools. So if I click on the little 9 boxes, I can reorder all of these tools that are in here for the ones that I use regularly. And all you do is you just click with a left click with your mouse on the icon and you drag it around to where you want it to be. So I don't what I tend to use is Gmail, Drive, I use Meet, and I will be using my contacts and my calendar. And then I don't tend to use docs and sheets and slides, but I do use forms, and I'm going to be showing you that shortly. And I do use YouTube, but all these other ones here, I'm not a great podcaster, so I don't tend to use those often, but you'll see that there is a line here, and the ones that you use more often sort of sit above the line, but you can move them around. On my personal account, I use Maps a lot. So on a personal one, I'd probably move that around. So that's how you can organize your workspace apps for what you're going to use. I'm going to start with looking predominantly at Gmail, because that's where a lot of the questions have come up from. You'll notice that I just clicked Gmail and the appearance of it changed in the background because I go to I changed my settings. So across the top of your bar, the workspace bar, you'll know if you're in the InnerWheel New Zealand account because it's set up here with the extra icon. Otherwise, you'll just be having your own personal profile picture that sits in the corner. So that shows what profile you are working in. Then the 9 dots for your apps. Then you've got here settings. Now these are settings specifically for Gmail. I like to I like to have a theme on the background of mine, but I'm a bit of a person that likes something different every day. So when I clicked on themes, I think I must have selected here random. So by selecting random, I never know what's going to come up each time. And I think that's quite cool. So I get a different a background theme every time. And if I don't like that theme, I just press the refresh button and a new one comes up. But I had a couple of questions people were asking. I had a question from someone asking about how to rearrange the way that your emails work. So this is where you can change the way that your emails look. I prefer the comfortable setting. You can choose which way you like your emails to look. And you can choose the way that the reading panel works. These are the quick link ones. So so that's the quick link settings. But if you want to go to all settings and you want to get a bit more fancy with your Gmail, if you click on all settings, it takes you into a section which has a whole lot of tabs at the top. So all these tabs link to different things that you can do on your Gmail account. The general ones here are, this is how you're going to view your Gmail account. You can set up the maximum number of conversations you have on any one time. You can change your text, default text. You can choose whether you want grammar and spelling and all those autocorrect things. Scrolling down, this is where you can change if your profile picture, if you're on a personal account, but not on an IWNZ New Zealand account. We've set it so that you can't change that. And then your signature. So your changing your signature is where you go in here, and this is going to be just like sort of I went through this in a previous a digital education session, but this is where you just go in there and you type your name as normal, or you can create a new signature. You save it, and then this is where it's going to display. So for any new emails, I'm going to use my Michelle signature, and for replies, I've chosen to use my signature, but you can have no signature if you want for replies. In here, you can, if you're going to be going away, you can put your autoresponder on to say, I'm on holiday and I'm not going to be there. So within, if you make any changes before you log out of that, that tab, at the very bottom of each tab, you must press Save Changes. I'm going to cancel now because, well, I'm not going to cancel, I'm just going to move on because I didn't make any changes. The other things under the different areas, it shows you what labels you can have hidden or showing. So it just helps with organizing your labels, which I'm going to look at in a moment for you. How to organize your inbox. So I know that it can be really annoying with Google. One of the things that people are always complaining about is the way that Google organizes your emails, and it stacks them all up on top of each other. And sometimes I find that I know that someone's answered an email, but it's really hard to find it because they all get piled on top of each other, and someone says they've sent you 4 emails, but if they've sent them under the same subject, then it all gets mixed together and it only looks like one email. So it can be very frustrating, but it's just Google's way, or Gmail's way, of trying to organize everything into one place. So it's something we have to really sort of live with them. I got asked a question about, is there a way that we can actually change that? I personally haven't found it yet, but if you have a look around in here, maybe there is a way to do that. I've not discovered it. Yeah, if you want to do with personal accounts too, you can also look at forwarding. So this will come into play for people that with your club accounts. I've had a question about how do we change over from our current president, it might be Timbuktu Club president at Gmail, and now they want to use Timbuktu at IWNZ, the Inner World New Zealand account. How do they make sure that they transfer all those emails over? There is a process that we can do with that. So I think someone asked that, was it Daphne? We're going to go over that in the May and June session. And with the migrating of accounts, if there is a club that wants to do that, it's a bit of a technical process. So that could be something that we can do one-on-one, or because I did all of them when we set these up originally. So the process is quite straightforward when you know how, but just ask and I'll talk you through personally how to do that. But what you would need to, once you've done that, is organize to have any emails that's sent to an old email address that you want to be forwarded to a new email address. This is where you go to add forwarding address. And so if you were Timbuktu president at Gmail and you're now becoming Timbuktu at IWNZ, you would put in here the forwarding address that you want your email. So any email that goes in there would automatically come to the new one. So you're not going to be missing any emails. It's a bit of an odd scenario, that one. But this is where you have honestly, these are all about just having a look and having a play when it comes to settings, because there's always, you can't really muck things up too much. If you make a mistake, then it can always be undone, and you're not going to lose your whole account and you're not going to lose all your emails. So just go in, have a look and see what are in the settings, and that's just a little bit of fun. But with your Gmail accounts, your emails come in, and I can have days where I have 20 to 100 emails just suddenly come into my account. And that's where I then gets really, really busy and really full. So what I've done is I've set up, and they were set up, some of these by previous presidents, but I've set up a whole load of labels. And I will drag and drop an email, or I will label an email to go into an account. So, for example, an email's come in today to me about changeover for 2022. So there's two ways I can do that. I can just drag that over to the label that says changeover 2022. And if I release it, it just automatically drops that into that label. Or I can click the box next to it, and at the top here, I go to the button that says move to, and I can click change over 2022. But if I don't, let's say I want to set up a whole new label to file that under. So I would just go down here to create new, and I would give the label a name, test. But maybe and then there's the opportunity that I can set it under a parent one. So set it under another label that's already there. So it's like double filing. So I could do that. I could set it up. So you can see here how we've got it. For example, with the database, we have separate files for bereavements, for honoured actives, and for new members. So, but they all come under the topic of database. So I'm not going to nest it under one at the moment, but as soon as I click create, so that's now gone over here alphabetically on the side. So now I've got test, and sitting in there is the email that I just sent there. So I find that I think of all the I'll actually move to where I want it to be so that I can then, and then I just go back to inbox when I want to. I find that if I set them up, first of all, I went through and I set up the topics that I thought were the important topics. So in a club, it might be new, it might be membership, it could be district chairman news, could be club activities, speakers. So you can set up your different topics, your different labels, and so that you're dragging those emails into that. Now, I got asked a question this week too, which actually sparked me to have a look. And someone said, what about where I can use add to my tasks? I hadn't done that before, but I discovered something new. Down the side here are little buttons, and one of them says tasks. Now, if I click on that, it opens as a sidebar here. Now I'm going to go back to that email that I had before that was from Alessandra about music for changeover. I need to action that email. Previously, until yesterday, I would just put a little star for important, and I would go back to it and find it when I scrolled through my emails. But after yesterday, I discovered this really cool thing. If I click on that and I drag it over onto here, and it comes up with a plus sign, and I drop it in there, and I add it in there, it comes up in my tasks. And so now, if I click on this, so I exited off it, now if I click on my tasks, these are all my emails now that I need to action. So I can go to them and I can click on that email and I can see, okay, I need to action that. Once I've actioned it, I can tick, ta-da, it's disappeared from my tasks. The email is still there in my, folder, so I haven't lost the email, but it's been taken off my to-do list. I thought that was pretty exciting, and it's a new thing that I've learned. So I am now dragging my emails over to tasks and using that. So that happens. You can exit off that at the same time. So that's found down the sidebar of your screen, and it looks like a circle with a tick in it called tasks. If you click on that, it comes in. You can also add manual tasks. So you may want to, remind yourself that you need to organize the, make sure the club supper roster is organized. That's something that's on your list to do. So you can, type in there, give it a supper roster. You can fill in any details, you can give it a date and a time that it needs to be done by. And so it needs to be done by tomorrow. Organize enough roster for next month. And that's now sitting there in my task list. So next time I go on to have a look at my task, it will come up and it will tell me, oh, it's due tomorrow. And I'm sure that after tomorrow, if I haven't done it, it will send me a little reminder, and it will give me a ping somewhere on my phone or on my computer or something. And I will know that I need to get that task done. And as soon as it's done, I just tick it off and it's completed and it's no longer on that list. So I thought that was quite a cool little tool to learn. I think that will come in useful with many people. So managing your labels, just remember they're always here in alphabetical order on the side. Down the bottom is quite good too, because you can have more or less. Just want you to just work out that you should constantly, every now and then, go back and check your spam, because I get spam in here, and sometimes spam comes from, so for example, I've just seen something in there which is an email I need, which has gone into spam, which shouldn't have. But there are things in there that I don't need. So I would just go through, for example, if it's one that I need, I would select it, I'd click it, and I will send it to, I think I just want it to go to inbox. I will even just drag it in here to, I've got a lot of labels. I just drag it to inbox, and then all the rest is junk. So I'll just click on that and I will delete forever because they're spam and I don't need them. So every now and then I just go in. Spam happens all the time. There's no stopping it, whether you've got a named account or not. Also, I do find sometimes this funny thing called promotions. Sometimes emails go into there and updates. You get emails in there. So it's just worth just checking them every now and then and seeing what is sitting there in those labels. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, someone's asked me to do something and I don't know where it is, but I'll find it in my spam. So from Google, from Gmail too, you can set up meetings. So you have access here to meet and to chat, and I don't tend to use chat or spaces, but if you want to set up like a club conversation, you can do that through spaces. But you can set up a Google Meet at any time through here, create a new meeting, and send an invite. You can do it that way. I find the easiest way for me to do Google Meets or to set up online meetings is to go to my calendar. So I click on my calendar, I go up here to my apps and I select my calendar. And ta-da, what's going to come up? Okay, so I've got I've actually got I've got a meeting tonight that hasn't come up on there because it depends what account I'm at. But say on Friday at I'll change the time. At Friday at 10 a.m. I'm going to be having morning tea with Betty. Morning tea even. Morning tea with Betty. I'm going to invite Betty to come along to it as well, or not, but I'll invite Betty, but I don't have a Betty, but I will invite Michelle. So Michelle's coming to that, and morning tea online. This is going to be an online meeting. Anything that I put into my calendar through Google Calendars automatically sets up as a Google Meet invitation as well. So I can add in there, if I was going to meet her at a location, I could add in the actual location that I'm going to meet her at. I could add a description, or I could send some attachments. So I can, just like an email, I can type in there, meeting to discuss an upcoming club event. I can add attachments just like in an email, and then I click save. And when I click save, it says, would you like to send invitations to the people from your Google Calendar as for your guests, and you go send. And so because they're outside of this IWNZ account, it just gives me an extra reminder to say you're inviting someone from outside the organization. Yes, I want to invite all my guests. So that invitation to morning tea has now gone to Michelle or to Betty. I'm pretending Michelle at M. Atkinson is Betty. So that email's gone to Betty, and she now will now load into her calendar as well. So when it comes to 10 o'clock on Friday morning, I can click on that link and I click join with Google Meet, and that will launch into an online meeting. Now, Google Meet, for those of you that haven't used it, is the the Google tool for online meetings that run exactly the same as, well, pretty much exactly the same as Zoom meetings. So you can have club meetings. So it might be, if you are the club secretary, you invite everybody in the club to an online meeting or to a club meeting. It goes straight into their calendars. And so what our club's starting to do is that some of us are going to start meeting in person, and some are still coming online. So those that can't come online, that can't come in person, would click the join with Google Meet, and they would come to the meeting as an online meeting, and other people would be there in person. So the calendar invite, the meeting invite through your calendar, works for both physical meetings and for online ones. If you had this and you were going to send a Zoom link rather than a Google Meet link, then you can also send the Zoom link within the body of the email. So I've now, I want to add something else to that invitation now. So I've clicked on it and I go to edit event. So that's where I can then go and add in here into the description. I can add more notes. I can add, I can copy and paste the Zoom link and add it into there, or I can change the location. I can even change the time. So I can say, oh, actually, we're going to meet at 10:30. By default, it gives you an hour. You can change the time if you want it to just be half an hour or an hour, however long you want the meeting to be. And this is quite a cool tool here. What you can do is, like, our club are meeting every second Thursday of the month at 7:30 p.m. So I can set up, I'm going to meet Betty for morning tea at 10:30 weekly on a Friday for however long I want it to meet. So I can set this up as a, monthly on the second Friday. So if I'm doing my club meetings, I can set my meeting up monthly on the second Friday of the month, and then that's going to constantly be in my diary. And it's going to remind me that that's what I'm doing. So as soon as you save it, anything that you've saved can get sent. You can send as an email to the participants. I've had a question come up here. Right, I'm getting to contacts in a moment, to how to transfer club lists to your mailing address. So we've now covered Gmail, the use of the calendar and setting up online meetings, how to reorganize your workspace accounts, and we've talked about tasks. Now we're going to go back to look at contacts, because this is one of the questions that's come up by lots of people, by everybody I think that came in, is how do I set up groups of contacts within my Gmail account? So there are two ways to do this. If I click on the 9 buttons here, I can either get to contacts back through my Gmail, or I click on the blue person icon here that says contacts. So in contacts, there are a number of labels. Again, they use the word labels, and these are my groups that I can email to. So you'll see this first one here is imported. Now, what you might do is you might get your whole club list, and you want to, instead of sitting there and typing everybody's name independently and create a contact, and you sit there and do all 50 members of your club, instead you can put it into an Excel spreadsheet, but you then need to save it as a CSV. I'll come back to that in a moment, but you just go here to this button that says import. And so it says to import contacts, select a CSV or a V card file. So I will, am I going to be able to find that easily? So if I select a file, okay, I've got one here that says expressions of interest, and see that it's saved as a .csv. So, oh yeah, okay, that's going to be, I can't do that one, sorry, because that's got personal information. I can't share on a. If I clicked on that now, what would happen is that it would then come up with the blue here to say import, and I would then click that to say import. And what would happen is that the list here would come up. What would happen instantly, because this is what I did here, I loaded it up, I clicked import, and then instantly, bang, all of the club accounts came up as accounts that I imported. So, and this is all of the official IWNZ New Zealand email addresses from the distribution list that you can download off the IWNZ New Zealand resources. Now I want to take that list and I want to associate people on the list with specific mailing addresses. So all of these ones here, I click the ones that I want. So all of these ones here, I click, and there should be, and they come in alphabetical order. So I'm going to create a mailing list, which is for the IWNZ New Zealand clubs. So I click all of these. Yes. I'll close them for now. Okay, so that's all the clubs, and now I'm going to add them to a label. So I click on this little button here that says manage labels, and I'm going to create a label which says IWNZ New Zealand club accounts. I really can't type today. Club accounts, and I'm going to save that. So what I've now got here is this mailing list, which is all of the IWNZ New Zealand club accounts. So you can do this with your club members. You can get your spreadsheet, and I'll show you in a minute how to save it from an Excel spreadsheet into a CSV. You import it, and then you can do it an easier way, as you can then rename the label. So I've just left it as imported. So this is all the IWNZ New Zealand Contacts original list. Oh. That's even the master document. Okay, so I'll save it as that. So now that's been saved. If you want to delete, because you can remember, one thing is that all of the contacts that you then have in here, if you've got this synced with your phone, all of the contacts will also then appear in your phone as personal contacts. So just make sure that you, if you're going to have your IWNZ New Zealand account linked to your phone so that you can see your emails, then you're going to have to bear with it, with the fact that you're going to get all these contacts appearing in your phone as well. So now on your labels list, you've got your, so I've got the club accounts. So that's how I've created a list. But if I want to just create and add an individual, I can just go to create contact, it gives me an option here for contact or multiple contacts. So I have a new member, I can add them in as a new member. Then I can assign them to a label. So everywhere you see this little button, you can manage them. You can add them to the club accounts. You can add them to as many labels as you want. And then you click apply at the bottom. So you can have people that are, you could have your club members, and then you've got your committee. So you've got, and then you might have, you know, district executive, or you might have national people. So you can have people that that sit in more than one mailing distribution list, one label. So they can, you can choose which of these labels you want to associate them with. And by clicking apply, that's going to add them to that. So now when you go back to Gmail, so I'm going to go back to Gmail, and I'm going to create a new email. So I'll go to compose. Sorry. I'm going to compose a new email. And when I go to I'm going to go IWNZ club. Here we go. Started typing it and it says club accounts. Bang. They're all there. So all I started doing was typing in the name of the label. And then I make sure now I'm not going to miss anybody because they're all in there. So you can do that with your club. So you can just have, you know, club members, start typing club members and bang, they're all there. However, if you're going to do an email to all your club members, this is the problem now, is that I need to exit off each one individually. But let's go back and I'm going to compose a new email. And instead of going to, I'm actually going to BCC to all my club IWNZ club. So I'm actually going to BCC to everyone. So that means that they're not going to see everybody's personal email addresses. So that's automatically filled into the BCC column. So if you're only emailing a small group like the committee, you may just do it in the to column. But if you're doing to a large group of people, put them into the BCC, and then you can write your subject and send your email just like normal. So that's your contacts list. Before I move on from Gmail and contacts, are there any specific questions that anyone has that I haven't covered? I've lost anybody. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to Drive. So Drive is another really great tool that we have that is useful for storing all our documents. Now Drive, if you're using My Drive is your personal drive. So for your club, that's where you store. My Drive might be your club things, or you have what we call shared drives. So within IWNZ New Zealand, we have a number of shared drives set up. So for example, the tickled pink one here is for, there are 6 people in it. So tickled pink is in here. This is all the resources we have for the tickled pink campaign. And if I then go here, I can view the members of that shared drive. So we all have access to the drive. So that's, you know, the president, admin, that's the list of all the people that have it. And then you'll see that they have different names next to them. And this was set up by Joanne, our membership facilitator. So she's the manager of the account. So she is able to change the settings. I can't change the settings on this because I'm just a content manager. I can add things in and I can take things out. I can add information, but I can't change any of the other settings. So I'm going to click done on that, and I'm going to open a drive here, or I'm going to actually do a new drive. So back to the shared drives. In my club, I'm going to click new shared drive. So this will be for my club photos. Oops. Club photos. I'm going to create that drive to start with. And here it is. There's one person in there at the moment. So what I need to do is manage the members. And so I would go through now, manage the members, and I would add everybody in here that is going to be able to have access to drop photos into my club photos drive. So it might be, it might be that you invite every member, or it might be that you're inviting the president and the secretary and the editor of your club. Whoever you know in your club that has photos that you want them to add to your drive, you invite them. So we have one here, training. So we have an account called training. And when that comes up, so that I've had to put them in, you have to put each one in individually, because now with training, I then get to choose. Now, what sort of person are they going to be? Are they going to be a content manager? A content manager can add, they can edit, they can move, and they can delete files, okay? If you want a contributor, and that could be like any of your members of your club as contributors, they can add photos and they can edit, but they can't delete. So it means they can add and they can write captions, or they can change the names of the photos, but they can't delete the photos, they can't move them anywhere. A commenter is someone that can add comments, but they can't add or edit. And a viewer, they can just see what's there. They can't do anything other than see what's there. So for most of you, the person setting up the account, it's best to do that from the club account. And then when you're adding members of your club that are going to contribute by adding their photos into there, you would probably make them contributors so they can drag and drop images into the club shared drive for photos. So then you would write a message. Since I know Joanne's on the call, I'm going to add her in there as well. And then for Joanne, I might make Joanne a content manager. Oh, sorry. No, that's not going to work that way. Okay, I'm just adding training at the moment as a contributor. And so I could then send them a message saying, here is where you can upload photos. And I would send that, and it goes to her as a message into her email address. Now I want to add another person. I'm going to add membership, and I'm chosen to make her a content manager. So I would I could write her another message, and then I press send, and that's gone to Joanne. At any stage, I can go back in here because I am the manager. I can go in here and you'll see that next to each person, it now tells me what level they're at. So I've decided, actually, Joanne, I don't like the fact that you can delete files. I'm just going to make you a contributor. Training, you really need to be able to delete files, move them around and reorganize things because you're the club editor, so you need to be able to use them for newsletters. So I'm going to make you a content manager. So I can save those changes. I can make those changes at any time, but the only person that can do that is someone that is a manager. So let's say I actually want training to be a manager as well. I can have more than one manager. So then I can save that. So it might be the club account and the club editor are both managers of the shared drive. So that means now I can see that this is the club photos. I can send emails to everyone that's shared with that drive. I can change the theme color. So I can change the theme. I can rename it just by giving it a rename. I can, and that's all by just clicking on the little button on the side there. I can, so the themes are quite cool because you can pick from the gallery what you want it to look like. Well, it's limited, limited coolness, to be honest. They're getting a few more, but you can choose what you want it to look like. And then you can email all the members of it if you've got a message of what you want to send, information you want to send to people. So now when I go back to my shared drives, I've got this one sitting here that says club photos. Anybody who was listed in that, if they log into their drive and they go to shared drives, they will find that that sits there just like all of these do. What some people are doing is that they're setting it up in my drive. So these are all my personal files, or the files for the president. And you'll see that if it's got a little person sitting in the folder, that tells me that's a shared drive. But then sometimes I have folders that have been shared with me. So instead of making it a shared drive, someone has set it up in their My Drive. And then, so for example, this one, I can, I set that up myself, but I can share it with another person. And so I can add them just like you did with shared drives. So here are some folders that have been shared with me by other people. So they've set them up in their personal My Drive, and they've gone to, they've right-clicked on it and they've shared it with me personally, but it's not in the shared drives. Shared drives are separate. So what I suggest for you for your club, so I know in my club, we have a shared drive for our photos. We have a shared drive for our club minutes. We have a shared drive for our club accounts. And we have a shared drive for any other activities. And then one person adds those documents into that shared drive. It saves on emailing everyone everything. It's brilliant for photos, especially to be able to, once they're in there. So for example, once you have your files in there, you'll see, so for example, which one will I open? So the media one, you can, I think it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but within there, you can create separate folders, just like you're storing your documents on your, just like storing documents on your computer. You have your folders, and within your folders, you can drag and drop. It's all done by just dragging and dropping the documents that you want to add. So you can do it. So that's how you set them up. But then if you want to add something into there, you click on the button at the top here that says new. So you're going to either add a new folder, or you're going to upload a file, or you're going to upload a whole folder. So if you are setting up your club photos and on your computer, you already have a folder of about 5 or 10 years worth of photos, you would click on upload folder, which will then take you to your computer where you can then find your, whatever folder it is that you want to upload. You click on the photo, you click on the folder, oops. And here we go, I'll go back one, cancel that. So I go new, upload folder. Let's say I'll just do Discover in the World New Zealand folder that's sitting right there. I want that folder. I would then click upload. And it will start uploading. So there are 22 files. This upload of will only do it if you trust the site, which I do. So I then click upload, and then it will sit here and it tells me how many. It slowly churns through all of the documents and it will upload them. If I want to cancel that upload, I click cancel, but you'll see the progress of it as it churns its way through. There are some really large files in there. I think there's videos. So they're going to take a long time to load. Photos are going to take a long time to load. So don't be afraid. It will just, sometimes it takes hours. But I'm going to cancel that because I don't need those to be uploaded in there. But that's how you upload into the shared drive. So I go to shared drive, club photos, click new. I would upload a photo folder, or I might just have a file just one photo I want to add. Or if I've had an event, I create a new folder and I might call that, March Madness. I really can't type today. Madness. So those are going to be my March Madness 2022. I'm going to create that folder. So I might then say to my club members, right, I've created a folder called March Madness. Can you go to that folder and upload any photos that you've had in March? So people that have access will go to the shared drive, they'll click on March Madness, they'll then go, there's two ways, they can either drag and drop from their computer. So that's going here to your file explorer, opening it up and taking a file and just dragging it and dropping it in there, or going new, file upload, and then file uploading. There we go, uploading a file, and bang, it sits in that account. So that's how you can set those up with all of your clubs, so club members. So your treasurers, for example, your club treasurer, you can have your club accounts, and each month your treasurer can just go in and they can upload the next set of accounts. So everyone can go in and see the accounts. Or your club minutes can sit in there, or your agendas can sit in there. You can have the files, shared drives for whatever documents you want. It saves you emailing to everybody. I don't know about you, but I have one email account that constantly just gets completely maxed out, and then all of a sudden I have an email saying that your account is at capacity, you can't, I have to go and clear out. So because people send lots of large files, using shared drive means that don't have any of that. Once it's loaded, like you can see, this has now loaded, anybody who logs in to their shared drive can find it. So any other questions about shared drives and drives that anyone has before I move on? Okay, there was one more thing. It's already after 5 o'clock, but there's one more thing. Who wants to find out about how to collect information about your club members in a form to create a spreadsheet of data? Because that was another question that I was asked. Someone said to me, someone's asked a question on how can we use forms to collect members' information. So if I go to the 9 dots and I go to forms. Forms is a really cool tool to use to collect data and to be able to use data. We have the national database that we are using nationally, but in a club, some clubs, when we asked clubs to send us their lists of who their members are, we had some clubs send us PDFs of Word documents, and some had Excel spreadsheets and some didn't have anything. They just typed out a list or took a photo of a handwritten list. So one of the things you may want to do, we're not saying you have to, but this is an opportunity, is you can create a form. And I've done a sample one here, but if you went to, so I've created a sample membership form. So each club needs to know who their members are, and some basic information to add them to mailing lists, phone trees, and invitations to events and meetings. This form could be useful for your clubs to store your member information. So what do you need to know about your member? You need to know their first name and their last name, their email address. You also need to know, because I haven't added it in there because I'm going to add in a new one here, you also need to know their so the date they've joined. You also want to know their physical address. So I just do that, and I choose to make that here. It's going to be a paragraph, so it's a long answer. So we want their physical address. We also want to know their phone number. Oops. Phone number, and that automatically tells me it understands that, so it's made it a short answer question. You may want to know their birthday. You may want to know their partner's names. You may want to know if they're coming to you from another club. You may want to know how they heard about In a Wheel, or you may want to store some more additional information about them. So let's say I've created that. I can drag these around to whatever order I want them in. So this has now created a form. So that's what that form is going to look like. I can send that form in an email to a new member. Then when they fill it out, so I can send that form, I'm going to send it to myself. Okay, I'm going to send that to me. And so we can add whatever other things we like in there. I've sent it to my email address. I'm going to now go to that email. I just need to, I've got so many things open on this page. I'm going to go to that email. There we go, to my inbox. There it is, sample. It's been sent to me, and it's asked me if I want to fill this form out. So yes, I want to fill out that form. So I can then fill it out. When it's got a star next to it, it means that it's required. So I need to have all that. I can do, I'm going to set myself up. That's my birthday, by the way. And then I click submit. So that's, oops. That's now gone to, it's gone to secretary, it's gone to Judy, because, and when I set them up, I'll go back through the process. I'll give you a lesson, anyone that wants to know how to set one up properly, but it's a follow the dots. It explains everything. So that means that that response has been sent to, I thought it was one that was going to send to me. It's been sent to Judy. And now when Judy goes in, she'll be able, oh no, I'll be able to go in. So now I'll go back to that form. Yeah, good. Now when I go back to that form, I can see that one response has come in, because it's now got, okay, so a response has come in, and that is from a Michelle Atkinson. There's her email address. She hasn't shared her address with me because it wasn't necessary. The information is there. I can view that by question, so I can see how many people, or I can view it by individual. So if there are 20, this would take me through all of the individual responses. But that's no use to just look at a form on its own. So let's say I've got 20 members or 50 members in my club that have filled it in. This little button up here says create spreadsheet. So if I click on the create spreadsheet, it will create a new spreadsheet, and that will go there. So then this spreadsheet comes out with, there it is, all with my members, first names, last names, email addresses, phone addresses, phone numbers, date of joining, birthdays, partners' names. Bang, it's all been done for you. You can treat this just like any other spreadsheet. The reason why you ask for first name and last name separately is that so you can organize, you can sort them by A to Z. You can, if you don't like using sheets, you can export this, you can save it as or download as an Excel spreadsheet. So you save it onto your computer as an Excel spreadsheet. The beauty of this now that this has been set up on this form is that every time a new person gets added, it automatically updates on the form. So you then don't have to have that whole scrambling around to make sure that the new person is added to the form. If it's entered once, it's always there. So that could then be your mailing list for your club. So you can then send an email. So if you want to send a bulk email, or you then want to save this, here you go to File, download this as your CSV, your common separated values file. That CSV gets saved and you use that to import into your contacts that we did earlier, and that's where you then have your mailing list for your club. So that could be something of interest to clubs moving forward if you would like to use that tool. All I need to touch on now is that how to save as a, if you want to, sorry, I'll go right back to forms. So here I am at forms. If I want to create a new one, what you would do is your club, I can put instructions on the website for you. You start with an untitled form, so it might be, you know, Timbuktu club list, and then you set all your questions. So that's where you have your first question is first name. First name, short answer. So that's how it's going to be. And I'm going to make that required, right? You have to have that as required. Then I'll have last name. That's going to automatically, that's required. Then I have address. So you're building the form, or email address is required for new members. So you're building the form by clicking on the plus button. So someone sets the form up to start with. There's a whole lot of settings you can play with to make the background look different colors. So you go to settings and you can have, you know, you can just play around with how the form looks. Yeah. So it's just a case of playing with it. And if a club would like help with setting up forms, it's just sending an email to myself or to Ariel, and we'll talk you through how you can set that up. That's some useful tools today. I've spoken for an hour. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think I've probably got a lot of stunned, you know, faces and eyes in the headlights there, but are there any questions from anybody? Okay.
Need to go and play.
Yeah. Are any of you motivated to go and have a play?
Just a
Shall I
little.
ask a question in regards to Gmail?
Yes, Louise.
Oh, sorry, my husband's just turned a drill on. Just a minute. In Gmail, can you set a rule like an Outlook, like you know, any emails from this address, please put in that folder? I think I've fiddled and I haven't found it.
Okay, I haven't found it either.
Okay, it's a good tool, that.
It is a good tool. I haven't found it, but I'll set myself as a challenge to try.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure if it's there, Michelle, you'd already know about it.
Oh, look, to be honest, as I said, I'm learning with Gmail myself because I haven't been using Google before.
No, nor have I.
It wasn't my personal preference, but it's I can see the value in using it for the organisation. So we've all got to learn something new.
You've given me a few things.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Michelle, when you've got all the contact details in the CSV file that you've saved, if you add more contacts in there, will they automatically be linked through to your Gmail when you've downloaded them to Gmail as a contact group? Will it update automatically?
Once you've imported, so if you import a CSV, it won't automatically import new ones that you add to that CSV. But what you can do is if you then do a second import, it won't add anyone that is already on there a second time.
Right.
So you don't have to recreate the whole list. It will only update the names of the people that are new. So you're not going to end up with them, 2 or 3 times on your list.
But you will need to make sure you upload it again each time you add a new member.
So you can, if you go
separately.
So the joy of doing the initial upload with the import is when if you're starting out now and you've got a club of 50 members, you don't want to be importing every contact individually. But as you're getting new members that are 1 or 2 at a time, you can just add them as a contact individually, and then you click the list, the label that you want them to be associated with. So that will add them to the club list. They won't sit on that original import file, but that original import file, what I should have, once I had associated all those members to the different mailing lists, I am going to probably go in there now and delete that original import CSV because the data is already saved as the contacts in those mailing lists that have already been set up under those labels. So I don't need that original CSV. So doesn't really matter as long as you have associated the members of that CSV list into a separate label for their club members. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Just with all the like the new members, those forms look great, but would you suggest then going back and reloading, because I mean currently the secretary has just got a book with them in.
Yeah, if you're a club that keeps them like that, so we had some difficulty when we were originally setting up the national database, and that getting that information off the clubs was difficult because some clubs, maybe like yours, actually sit with them handwritten in a book. So it was quite a big task to ask for that data because someone then had to type it up into a list. So hopefully now that's should have been done by all of the clubs because Ariel got all that information off the clubs to be able to set up the national database. Through the national database, we didn't ask for all that additional information. All we needed at the time was the members' names and their email address. That is all that national recorded. So you as a club would probably already have somewhere with your club secretary or your club treasurer a list that has already been created. So you wouldn't need to then use that form for every single member that you've already got that data for, because you've already got a spreadsheet list of them. You can use this moving forward with new club members, and then you can export it as an Excel spreadsheet. You can add them to your existing list if you want to, so that, or you can just re-enter everyone's details and start afresh. It's up to you. I'm not saying that any club even has to do this. This is just a concept or an idea that might be useful. Does that make sense, Sue?
Yep, no, that's good, thank you.
Okay.
Michelle, I was going through the tools for the clubs
Yes.
and everything, and I was pretty sure I saw a form to fill in for new members. Is that's right, isn't it?
I think that there is so nationally we ask for the clubs to send in through the website their name and their email address, so that they can be added to the national database. And that's where they then get sent the information on how they can log in and get access to all the resources. And I think that we may have set up, because someone asked for a template, I think we may have set up just a basic form and put it online there, but I don't think it's set up as an actual form as such. Because as you'll notice, when I had that and I pressed send to submit it, you really need to be able to set this form up within each club. And I'll see if we can set up a template that then each club can put in their own contact details, so that they are the ones that are going to get the access to it. National don't need access to your club lists. This is why if you set the form up within your club account, you're going to get all the notifications, and you're just keeping your club form there. So if we have any form that is set up through national goes to national, and we don't want to be managing every club's separate lists.
No, I did see the form and I thought, oh, that looks a good thing, but it's just to send you the initial information.
I think that's just a Word document that you may want to get information off your club members. It's not set up as an actual form on forms.
Right,
because that was possibly going to be, for some clubs, one step a little bit too far with technology at the moment. So for those of you that have been coming to these sessions, which is brilliant, this is why we've taken it that one step further today. It is good too that we can go back and we can rewatch them, because I think or else we'd be totally lost without being able to do that. Yes. I covered an awful lot of information in a short amount of time, but it's like, how do I get it out there to you all? So on that note, I'm just going to stop recording. So for those people that do go back to watch these, just remember that there's a lot of information in there to take on board. So it might be a case of fast forwarding through and watching at various stages. Over the next 2 months, the May meeting, digital education, is on the first Wednesday, which is the 4th of May, and the June session is on the 1st of June. In those 2 sessions, we're going to be looking at all the different new updates that there are on the website. It's going to be a fantastic opportunity in May for people who are new onto your club committee to come, or even new members to come on board to have a look, and we'll give you a full tour of all the new things and everything that's on the website. And then in the June one, we're going to be looking at that concept of how do we now hand over our Google accounts and set up our new committee members with being online, because that's going to be a process that we should really start looking at in June, so that come the 1st of July, you're not all going to panic because you can't log into your accounts. So if we start during the month of June, changing over our accounts to our new committees, then that would make it useful. We also will then be looking for input from you as to, do you want to have new club accounts set up within the IWNZ.org.nz area? Do you want to have a president's account for every club? Do you want a secretary's account for every club rather than just the club account? So we're going to be starting those conversations over May and June to see what you want. But there are two great sessions coming up. Please invite people, or make sure you book it in and come along.